something went wrong. Not a catastrophe, but serious enough that you need help. There are people around you who would help. You know this. One call, one sentence. I need help. But you don't call. You start figuring it out on your own. You find a workaround. You spend 3 times the energy just to avoid saying those words. Maybe you call it independence, not wanting to bother anyone, just the way you are. But for some people, asking for help isn't just uncomfortable. It's almost impossible. And it has nothing to do with pride. It has to do with the fact that a long time ago, asking for help wasn't safe, or it was pointless. And the nervous system drew a conclusion that no one ever updated. Handle it yourself. Always. Whatever it takes. In attachment theory, there's a style called dismissive avoidant. It forms in childhood, in homes where a child's needs were either ignored or met unpredictably. You cried, and no one came. Or they came, but with irritation. Or they came and then left again, and you never knew what to expect. A child's brain draws conclusions quickly. If asking hurts or leads nowhere, it's easier not to ask. It's easier to learn not to need. Over time, this becomes identity. The person starts to take pride in their self-sufficiency. I don't depend on anyone, sounds like strength. But that strength is often not strength at all. It's a child who learned that relying on others is dangerous, and has been living as if that conclusion was true forever. John Bowlby, who developed attachment theory, described this as the deactivation of the attachment system. Normally, when we're struggling, the attachment system activates. We reach toward others, seek closeness, ask for support. In dismissive, avoidant people, this system learned to switch off before it could fire. Not because they don't need people, but because reaching toward others ended in pain or emptiness for too long. Brené Brown, who spent decades researching vulnerability, calls this armor. The person builds an image of someone who doesn't need help, who always manages, who is never in a difficult position. And the armor works. It protects against disappointment, against asking and finding yourself alone again. But it also cuts off everything else. Real closeness, the feeling that someone is holding you. This shows up in very specific ways. You get sick, but you don't tell anyone. You'll manage. Work is hard, but if someone asks, you say, I'm fine. Something is broken. Something isn't working. Something hurts. You search for the solution alone until you have nothing left. And the strangest part, even when someone offers to help, it's hard to accept. No, I've got it. It's fine. Don't worry. I'll figure it out. You say this automatically, before you've even had a chance to consider whether you actually need help. Psychologists call this compulsive self-reliance. It isn't a choice. It's a reflex. The body learned to refuse help before the mind could evaluate it. And over time, this creates a strange kind of isolation. You're surrounded by people who love you, but you're alone. Because real contact requires being seen as someone who needs, and you never show that. There's another layer to this. For many people, asking for help isn't just awkward, it's shameful. Shame says, if I need help, it means I'm not strong enough, not capable enough, not managing well enough. It means if people see this, they'll be disappointed, they'll leave, they'll lose respect. This shame is especially strong in people whose value in their family and their early environment was conditional. You were valued when you handled things, praised when you were independent, noticed when you were easy. And so you learned, my worth is in not needing. To need is to be a burden, and to be a burden is to lose your place beside people. This isn't a rational thought. It's a belief that lives below words, in the body, in reflexes, in the tightening that happens somewhere inside when someone says, can I help you? The cost of this is high, and it accumulates slowly. First, it's just exhaustion. You carry more than you can hold because setting any of it down feels impossible. Then comes a quiet loneliness. You're surrounded by people, but none of them know how you actually are, because you never say how you actually are. And then, sometimes, a strange resentment at people who didn't help, even though you never asked. Psychologist Terence Real calls this the hard wall, a barrier a person builds around themselves and calls it independence, but which doesn't actually protect them from pain. It just makes them unreachable to others and to themselves. Because receiving is also a skill, and if it was never practiced, it simply doesn't exist. Not because you don't want closeness, but because you don't know how to let it in. So what changes? Not willpower, not a decision, not a moment where you simply choose to be different. What changes is understanding that needing people is not a character flaw. It's biology. We are social creatures whose nervous systems are literally regulated through the presence of others. Asking for help doesn't make you a burden. It gives another person the chance to be there for you, a chance that many of the people around you very much want and rarely get. It changes slowly, through small moments where you let yourself say, "I'm struggling right now," or "I need help," or just, "I can't do this alone." Not to everyone, not all at once. To one person, once, and see what happens. Because the conclusion your nervous system drew a long time ago, that asking is dangerous, that no one will be there, was true then, in that room, with those people. But it isn't a life sentence. If this one found you, leave something in the comments. You're not the only one who's exhausted from handling everything alone.